For today's class, we're going to go ahead and start with opportunities in Command, and we're going to work ourselves all the way into Docusign and then come back into Command. And then I'm going to show you how to submit your commission tab. Okay, because ultimately the benefit, right, the celebration at the end is when we get paid. And so we need to have the commission tab submitted so that we can see how much we are supposed to pay you when that check comes in. So I'm going to share my screen with you now, and we are going to start on the dashboard in Command. If you have questions during class, just unmute yourself and ask me. I don't see the chat very well when I have the screen shared, so just unmute yourself, okay? It's not going to be a problem for me if you do that, okay? For this class, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can create an opportunity and how you can go back and see your opportunities later. Most of you will be starting opportunities for clients that you already have in your database, right, in your contacts. So you would come in here to your home screen and you would go over to the left-hand side and you would find your opportunities applet, and you would click on that, and that will take us into our dashboard for opportunities. What this shows us is anything that's in process for the current month. It will also show you anything that you have closed in the current month. What it's not going to show you is anything that has closed in a previous month. Now you can go back and find anything that's closed in a previous month, but what this dashboard right here is meant to show you is basically the equivalent of what a whiteboard would be if it was on the wall in your office, so that you are keeping track of what you have, you know, appointments pending or anything that's active or under contract. That's what this is meant for, okay? So it shows listings and buyers, your leases, and then it shows you potential income, et cetera, that you would have coming in based on where you are in the process. The more you use the tools that are inside your opportunities at the right time and put in all of the information that it asks for, the more Command is going to help you to be able to predict what is going to happen with your income, what your conversion rates are when you go on appointments, and things that you may need to tweak in your business to achieve your goals. And maybe you're achieving your goals fast, and so maybe adjusting what your goals are is going to tell you that, okay? So from this screen, one way to create an opportunity is here on the right-hand side where it says Create Opportunity. And what this does is that this gives us a pop-up screen that says, hey, we need some basic information from you before we pop you in to that full opportunities section of Command. So for me, because I am blessed with all 3 market centers in our KW United family, this tells me I need to choose which market center I'm submitting this opportunity in, okay? Here, if you're on a team, so if you're on the market center team, it's going to have the team here for you, and then you will have an opportunity owner and an assignee underneath. So the owner of the opportunity when you're on a market center team is going to be your coach, and then the assignee of that opportunity is going to be you, because you are the one who is working on the opportunity. If you are not on a team, then the owner of the opportunity will always be you. If you get to the point where you are growing a team and you are the rainmaker on the team, right? You are the head of that team. You then are the owner of the opportunity, and someone else on your team may be assigned to work with that client. And so they would be the assignee, which means both of you would have access to work inside the opportunity. Anything that has a red asterisk here is something that's required to be filled in before you go to the next page. If you don't have it filled in, then it's not going to let you go any further. So before we continue on this, I want to go back and show the second way that you can create an opportunity. So from your contact record, okay, right up here, you can actually create an opportunity right inside your contact. For any of you that have been in a class with me before, you know that my contact for all of our classes is Grace Lillian. From inside the contract record on the right-hand side, you're going to see things like timeline, opportunities, what smart plans your contact is on, any tasks or notes, or any saved searches that they've done. So if I click on the opportunities, you can see some other classes that I've done. You can also see a button that says Create Opportunity. If I click Create Opportunity, it's going to give us that same pop-up. The difference is from here, it already fills in the client name and it already gives you an opportunity name. When we go back out to the dashboard, I'll show you again where the client name and the opportunity name were not filled in yet because it didn't know what client we were working with. If we go in from the opportunity, I'm sorry, from the contact, there's only one client that we can be working with. It's that client. But if we create a brand new opportunity from that dashboard, it doesn't know yet who we want to work with. All right, is everybody good so far on where we are? I didn't go too fast? Okay. Remember, just unmute yourself if I have gone too fast. So we're going to click right back over here on the applet to our dashboard, and I'm going to pull that pop-up back in. And it says client, it's blank. Something else to be aware of is this opportunity type cannot be changed once you hit create. So if you accidentally create a listing opportunity and it's really a buyer opportunity, what you need to do is archive the opportunity and start over. So be very careful when you're doing this to make sure that the opportunity type is correct before you hit create. So here, I need to tell command that we're working with Grace Lillian. So Grace then comes up as the opportunity name, Grace Lillian dash buyer. Okay, I'm going to do this opportunity in our Falls Church Market Center because I'd like to show what the different checklist types look like. And Falls Church and Kingstown have different opportunity checklists. Fredericksburg is only licensed in Virginia, and so there aren't different opportunity checklist types, and we'll see that in a few minutes. When we scroll down here, you can put custom tags in here. So these are some that I've added test account. Some of these were in here already. Maybe there's a referral or investment sale. So this is just an account that I use for training, so I can add that custom tag. When you're starting to work with a buyer, you might not have an estimated close date, but you might also know that it's somebody who wants to start looking ASAP. So you could put this in for 30 or 60 days, or you can wait and come back in and change that once you have a contract. Your commission rate. Commission rate has that red asterisk. Well, today in your buyer presentation class, you guys learned about filling in that commission section, right, in your buyer agency agreement. So the commission rate that goes here is what you charge your buyers or what you're expecting to collect from your buyers. So right here, 2.5% is what I'm going to put in because that's the minimum I'm going to work for. The opportunity phase. Where are you in the process with this client? If this is somebody who you are already chatting with and wants you to come over so that you can have the full consultation with them and sign the agreement, then I would say this is more like appointment stage, right? If you have somebody that you are simply setting up this up because you met them at an open house and they just want to be put on a drip campaign, you would put them in as cultivate. So it all depends on where you are in the process. So here, I'm going to say we have an appointment and they're scheduled. All right, I'm going to go back and double check everything. It looks right. And then I hit create. So from this tab, it brings in everything that we just put in, and it gives us the opportunity right here with this pencil to edit anything that we need to change as far as updating the phase. We can update the closing date. I said there was an appointment scheduled, right? That was the phase and the stage. So let's go in and put when the appointment is scheduled. It's not, this right here should give us a pop-up, and if it doesn't, that's okay. So let's say the appointment is scheduled for, there it is, today, 5:10. All right, I scheduled it today, and I'm going to go see them today, okay? Today is the day I scheduled it, and I'm going to go see them today. So let's say I called them today during my lead gen time, and I'm not going to go see them until tomorrow. We would put it like this. All right, agreement 1, that's the day that they actually signed the agency agreement with you. If you know what type of financing they're doing, once you talk to them in that buyer consultation, you would mark that here. And then click save. Once they have a property, you want to make sure that everything has auto-filled in here. Once they've ratified a contract, you want to make sure that the address is correct here. And you can edit right here if something imports that's not exactly right. You can also put descriptions or notes on this page. Now, we move from left to right when we go in Command and when we go in Docusign. So from here, details, you go start at the left and then we go to the right. So buyer profile, it just talks about what searches they've done, what homes they've looked at. There's nothing to fill in there. Documents is the next tab that we'll go to. And after documents are completed, that's when offers and commissions come into play. You can also have notes that you can fill in about this opportunity. And then there's a timeline that shows the history of everything that happened inside your opportunity, which I can show you at the end so that there's actually data in there to look at. From here, on our Documents tab, this is where you're going to get your checklists for everything that's required for compliance. So everything that I need to see when it comes to a buyer agency package, when it comes to a listing package, when it comes to your ratified contract documents, and when it comes to your closing documents, so that you can be paid on time. And so that you have everything turned in and reviewed in case there's something that needs to be corrected while you're still in an early phase of your contract process. We can make corrections, and then we don't have to worry if something comes up later. If you are in Kingstown or Falls Church, you'll need to pick a checklist type when you come in here with your buyer. You'll choose Virginia buyer, DC buyer, or Maryland buyer. These are different checklists because they require documents based on the jurisdiction that your client is going to purchase. So we're going to do Virginia buyer today. All right, when you choose Virginia buyer, it then gives you the list of documents that are required or conditionally required, depending on the situation, for compliance. Here we have buyer agency agreement as required. Then we have trust, LLC, estate, or power of attorney documents. This is only conditionally required, and it tells you here next to it when it's necessary. That would be if someone has a listing or a buyer that is a trust as the purchaser or the seller, or if it's a business that's going to be purchasing the home. And if it's someone signing with a power of attorney, we need to have a copy of that as well. The affiliate business disclosure, cybersecurity notice, useful information about a real estate transaction, and the DPOR long form. There are two different DPOR forms. The buyer signs or initials the 4-page form. The seller signs both. This under contract folder shows you everything that we need when you ratify a contract. And then the closed folder will show you what we need once you've closed on the home. All right, and then after we get through the Docusign portion, I'll show you how you actually add these documents and submit those to the Market Center. It's very important to have these submitted in a timely fashion. The buyer agency agreements and the listing agreements are due within 24 hours of client's and broker signature, and contract documents, along with your commission tab that we'll do at the end, are due within 48 hours of ratification. Okay, before I go into Docusign, does anyone have a question on what we have done so far? Is this similar to what you've seen already? I know some of you are here as a refresher. Everybody's good? Okay. From here, this is how we get to Docusign. This is how we make sure that your room in Docusign is actually connected to Command. So you will always go through Command to open your room in Docusign. This button right here, Start a Transaction, is how we do that. So I'm going to click Start a Transaction. And it takes us right over to Docusign. We log in. And it takes us to a room that you see matches the name of your opportunity. And now the room is connected to Command. So if you ever need to go back into Docusign to work in this room on documents, you don't need to log into Command and go all the way through to your Documents tab and then go into the transaction. You can just go straight to rooms.docusign.com and go right into the room here in Docusign. It is just very important that the first time that room is open, that you allow Command to open the room so that it's connected. All right, and I'll show you why that's important shortly. From this section, we see that there are some choices across the top, just like we did when we got into your opportunity. Even though it puts us into the documents section, we're going to go back a step to the details. We want to make sure that we have the basics filled in here for our buyer before we add any documents. We're not going to have any listing or seller information. We're going to have some buyer information, and you're going to have your information that populates as the buyer's agent. For the address, because it says that the location is required, right? You can put in their current home address. So it doesn't matter that this is not the address of the home that they're going to be purchasing, because right now when you're filling out these documents, they've never seen a home, right? These are all documents that are signed before they go see a home. So let's put a current address for Grace Lillian. Remember, everything that has an asterisk is required. The more data that you put in this section, the more of a chance you have that's going to autofill into your documents. Not everything that is filled in here will have a place in your documents. Okay, there's also things in here that we don't use. This is set up to be used everywhere in the US for Keller Williams agents, not just our office. So you're going to see some fields in here that you have never heard of in any of our training, and that's because we don't use them. Okay, I'm going to hit save and go back to the Documents tab. From here, this is where you're going to choose the documents that you're going to bring into the room to work on. And remember, at this stage, we're just working on the buyer agency package. On the right-hand side, there's a button that says Add. and it's going to ask you where you want to add from. If you were a listing agent and you had received an offer on your listing that you needed to upload and then be able to, make adjustments on and mark up and send over to your clients for initials and signature, you would be uploading it likely from your computer. But this time we're going to be working with Docusign Forms. And so we click Docusign Forms. On the left-hand side of your screen when this comes up, it's going to tell you all of the form groups and all of the form libraries that you have access to. Yours is not going to look as busy as mine does. Mine has all of the forms groups that I've set up for all 3 market centers. So it's very, very busy. You don't need to worry about it looking like this on yours. What you will see is the form groups that are set up for your market center. So if you are in Fredericksburg, you're going to see Virginia Buyers -478. If you're in Kingstown, yours says Virginia Buyer Form Set -548. And in Falls Church, it says Virginia Buyers -949. Because I set this one up as a Falls Church opportunity, I'm going to use the Falls Church form set. It then tells you on the right-hand side how many documents are in that forms group. In the buyer form group, in the listing form group, in the rental form groups, you will pretty much need every single document that is in those groups. The contract forms group is going to have extra documents that you don't need. For example, it will have every option for financing contingency addendum, but your client is only doing one type of financing, so you're not going to need all of those. So you can bring them all in, or you can just click through what you need. The buyer documents that you need are all here, okay? So you can click on all of them to bring them into your room. Now I want to pop back over here for a second in a command. As you see here, buyer agency document, UTABA, cybersecurity, useful information, and D4 long form. That's 5 documents. In Docusign, there's 5 documents. Now this over here that says template, this is something that we will go over in an advanced class. There are templates that basically are additional fields that can be pre-filled, just like that details tab where I said you can fill some information in it and then it auto-fills into your documents. The templates are set up the same way where you can go in and pre-fill some information that would then auto-populate just like that details tab. That's an advanced class. Okay, we're going to do basics today. So I've clicked on all of these and I hit add selected. Okay, now we have all 5 documents in our room. These documents come in alphabetical order. I'm going to show you in a minute how you can reorder them, but for now, they're here in alphabetical order. When you click on each document, that is how you know if there's something that needs to be filled in. If it's something that just requires initial blocks, this is not the screen where you add those. So useful information about a transaction, that just has signature blocks at the end. You don't have to do anything there's nothing to fill in this section, right? You learned that this morning when you were reviewing it, there was nothing to fill in. The document here, that's the D4 residential property disclosure statement form, that's the 4-page document. That's something that we're just going to add initial blocks to on the next screen. Cybersecurity notice, same thing, it's just signatures. ABA, there's a little something to fill in. And then exclusive right to represent buyer agreement, there's a lot more to fill in. So we're going to click on that one first. And what this does is it brings up the document that has all of the blocks that you can fill in with information and should fill in to have this complete. And you guys reviewed everything today when you were in class with Deb, right? So I'm going to unshare for just a second. Did you guys get through all of those 5 buyer packages?
Hi, this is Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, I wasn't in it, so.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay.
Yes, we got through the entire package. Lost connections.
Awesome, thanks, Deb.
Sorry.
Okay, perfect. So you guys were able to see what needs to be filled in on all of that. So for our purposes of class today, because you guys went over, I'm not going to fill everything in here because you guys went over all of it. I'm just going to fill in a couple of things to show you the function of it, and then you will practice later on filling everything in, okay? So here, you would want to make sure that your client's name was in there correct, the date, right? Today is the 10th. I'm going to fill in the 10th. I can fill in an email address. So when you are filling in the documents, you're just clicking on the box, right? Everybody can see that. You just click on the box, and that gives you the opportunity to fill in the information that goes there. For the expiration date, let's put out 8/31. Okay, so as you see, not filling all of it in, just putting some things in here just so that we have something to look at when we go to the next page. And I'm going to hit save and close. On the ABA, like I said, there was just a couple of things that need to be filled in on this, and that's just across the top, right? Where it asks for an address, there's not a reason to ask for the address. It's just there. There's nothing that's specific to the property when it comes to the ABA. This is a disclosure that we are required to give to our clients. So this will fill in with the address that was put in the details tab. It doesn't matter that it won't match the address that your client of the house your clients are purchasing. All right. The spinning wheel of death. Sometimes this is good. This helps us practice patience. And this will happen from time to time, depending on the time of day. Everybody's on the internet. I think this is my internet. I don't think this is Docusign. If it does that and it doesn't stop, just refresh your screen and it'll take you right back to where you need to be. There we go. So here again, you just have these couple of blocks at the top. So this would be your clients. And then your name. Okay, down here is just signature blocks. We're going to hit save. Perfect. Okay. So now that we have the documents filled in, right, we're going to assume that everything's filled in fully on these documents. Now we need to send them for signature. So from this screen, we need to check the boxes on the documents that we want to send for signature. From here, if you hover over the thumbnail of the document, a circle comes up in the top left-hand side of the thumbnail. It may be hard to see on my shared screen, but it will be easier to see on your screen. As soon as you check one of the boxes, this new toolbar comes up across the top. This one in the middle that's a pen says create envelope. That's what we're going to use because we're going to be creating an envelope to send all of these documents to the buyer and to me as the broker for signature and initials. So I have all of the documents checked that I want to send, and I'm going to click create envelope. The first thing that this asks for when you're in the envelope section is to name the envelope. Please don't skip over that. It's very important that you have your envelopes named because every time you go in to your opportunity and you need to check something in the envelope section where you see all of the different times that you've sent your client something to sign, it will be very hard to tell which one it is that you're going in to look for if they all say, please Docusign. So here, I'm going to change this to say buyer agency package. Now this gives us a list of the documents that we brought in to send them to sign. I'm very picky about certain documents being in a certain place in order when I send to clients. I think that it just flows better. I think in our contract document packages, they need to be in a certain order because it flows better. This is where you can put them in that order. If you hover over the document and it turns gray like this, you can click on it and drag it and drop it to where you want it to be. So the exclusive right to represent, I want that to be first in my package. Okay, the rest of it, I don't really care as much about what order it goes in. I will probably want it in the order that I have reviewed it with the clients already so that they know what to expect when it comes through. All right, so there is just a drag and drop. Then you come down here to add recipients to the envelope. When you click add recipient, there are 3 choices that come up when you are using those Docusign fillable documents. Okay, those ones that had the blue icon that said form on them, those are the ones that you can click on and actually type in the document. If you upload something from your computer, it's a PDF and there aren't pre-tagged roles, this top one, because Docusign doesn't know what information is in that PDF. It can't read the PDF for you and know where things should go as far as initial and signature blocks. But on a Docusign form, they have created that form and they know where all of the signature and initial blocks should go for different people and different roles. So we're going to choose pre-tagged roles, and this actually helps you save time because if you're using the form on your listing agreement, on your buyer agency agreement, when you're preparing an offer, when you choose pre-tagged roles, it automatically puts those signature and initial blocks where you want them. Here, we're going to choose buyer 1 on exclusive right to represent agreement. A couple of the documents, you're not going to want to check pre-tagged roles throughout our forms library. Okay, one of them that you're not going to want to check the pre-tagged role for is the ABA. Because the ABA is signed by buyer and seller, they have only tagged it as a seller document, even though it is required for buyers and sellers, depending on who our client is. So we're not going to choose the pre-tagged role on that. We're just going to drag and drop the one set of signatures on there, okay? When we come across here to the right side, we hit select and that drop down. This is going to give you all of the choices of people that are in the room that you can send this to. So I want to find my client. This is my client, Grace Lillian, right? This is the buyer. The second person that you are going to choose, or the third person, right? After you've already chosen your clients, right? Buyer 1, buyer 2, maybe you have 2 buyers. So you would need to choose 2 people. You're going to choose buyer broker. you are not going to choose anything from here after you click buyer broker. Now it's probably a little confusing because when I clicked on this, you could see my name, right? You could see me and my email address. The only reason you can see that is because we are logged into my Docusign account. When you log into your Docusign account, you will not see my name. None of the other options that you see will ever get to me. So you want to choose the buyer broker so that it fills in the initial blocks and signature blocks properly. And I'll show you how to add the email address. So right here, we're going to hit add selected. And what it does is it tells us, okay, these are the two people that are now in the envelope that are going to receive an email and have to do something with it. So buyer one needs to sign. Well, let's say that we wanted to just send a copy to someone. You can change that here and say that they just need to see it. So which means they have to actually open the document in order for it to trigger something else. They're just going to get a copy of it when everything's done. But she needs to sign, Grace Lillian. So I'm going to actually change this to one of my email addresses because we are going to send this through for signature and initials so that I can show you what it looks like when it's completed. It is up to you if you would like your clients to all sign at the same time in the number one signing position. My preference is that you set them up in a chronological signing order so that someone is signing first, and then when they finish signing, it goes to the next person, and so on and so forth. There is a reason for this, especially when it comes to the contract documents, that it's important to have them in a chronological order so that every person sees any changes that are made, because what the most likely scenario is that the changes and corrections are made are associated with person number one, the first person that you have listed here. And if it's not set up in a chronological signing order, then the subsequent signers are never going to see those changes that were made. They're just going to be initialing a blank spot and not know what they were actually agreeing to. Okay, so chronological order. Nobody's going to feel bad. My suggestion is that you just tell them so-and-so is going to get it first. So when you finish, tell so-and-so to check their email. And I say, go with whichever party you think is going to be on top of it. And then it allows that person to help you to get the second one to sign. I will always be signing last, always. If it comes to me like this, where 1 and 1, I'm not going to sign it. I will try to remember to go back and check to see if your client signed, but I don't ever sign first. I will only sign after your clients. So here, I'm going to change this to 2 because Grace Lillian is signing first. I am signing second. So you would just type my name for buyer broker. And then for email address, you're going to put my email address, slauterstein@kw.com. You can always feel free to email me at the SML Homes email address. The KW email forwards to my SML Homes email address. The reason it's important to send it to the KW email address is because that is the email address that's associated with my Docusign account. All right, that is associated with the Market Center, and we need to have everything go through that KW Docusign, okay? Down here, message to recipients, please, I beg you, change the subject line. I get many agreements to sign every day, and if they all came through saying please Docusign, I wouldn't know if they were duplicates, and I do get duplicates. So this helps me to know whether I just haven't signed something or whether it's a duplicate. So this would be buyer documents. And remember, this is going to your client first. So this, you don't have to worry about the subject being relevant to what I'm seeing. This is relevant to what your clients are seeing. I know that the messages that you're sending have nothing to do with me, and that's okay. I just need the messages to be unique. So if I'm sending this to my buyer, I'm going to say buyer documents, we discussed, right? And then you can put a note in here to your buyer, right? Hi, Grace. Attached are the documents. Please let me know if you have any questions. Now you can change it so that the messages aren't going to every recipient and your client gets one message and I get another. Don't go that far. I don't need a different message. I can tell that this message is for your clients. I know what to do when I get a Docusign, right? So don't make it complicated. I want this to be smooth and easy for you, okay? All right, so from here, what you would do is in the top right-hand corner, you're gonna hit next. And this is gonna take us to the page where you would be able to edit documents. So if you had uploaded a PDF that was an offer from a buyer onto your listing, and you needed to do a counter offer, right? So you needed to make a correction or counter offer on a price. This now is the stage that you would do it. This is also the last stage before it is sent for signatures. What we did by choosing pre-tagged roles on the Docusign fillable form is we told Docusign, hey, please fill in all of the signature and initial blocks in the places that you know we need it. So I'm going to scroll through right now and show you that it put in initial blocks where we asked it to, all right, which was on the buyer agency agreement. Okay, here's a little trick. When it does pre-tagged roles and you have a signature block and a date, move your signature block over because the date field is really long and it's gonna, the date field is gonna type over your signature block and it's annoying. So just move your signature block over. This next one, remember the ABA, it was calling it a seller. So we need to bring in a signature block. So over here, it assigns colors to all of the different people in your envelope. So here we only have 2 people. So we have yellow and blue. If we had 4 people, we would see purple and green as the next colors, okay? And so you would click in this left-hand corner to go back and forth between the people that need to have initial blocks. So here, Grace Lillian's the only one that needs to have a signature block on this. I don't sign it, only the client. So we're gonna put date signed. I had moved that over already when I drug it in, piece of cake. Cybersecurity did not have anything in there. So I need to bring that in, date signed. Residential property disclosure statement, long form, right? This is the 4-pager that we are providing to the buyers. This document, right, you remember from this morning, is because when they sign that 1-page form, they're signing that we have informed them of their rights and responsibilities under the Deed Disclosure Act. So how do we have proof that we did that? Well, we require this in our buyer agency package. My preference is that you have initials on the bottom of every page. That is my preference. If you really think that that is too much for your clients, you may have them put their signature on the last page. However, my preference is those initial blocks. All right, this is our last document. Scroll to the bottom and we see that it auto-filled for us. We move the signature block over and that is everything for the buyer package. Now, before I send this, I want to show you how you mark up the document. So we're going to go back to the top. Let's say there was an error here, okay, with the name when you got an offer in. We're just going to use this as an example for what we're changing. So again, for those of you who have been in my classes before, you know Grace Lillian is my, my subject every time. So for those of you who have not been in my classes, I have 3 boys and I never was able to name a baby girl. Although I had named a baby girl, I just never got one. And my daughter would have been Grace Lillian. So that's where Grace Lillian comes from. So here, let's just assume that the last name was left off. Okay, so it was only Grace Lillian that was put on here, but we need a last name. Or it's supposed to say Grace Lauderstein. Let's do that. Over here on the left-hand side, we're gonna put a line through Lillian because it's supposed to say Lauderstein. So when you drag that line in, it comes in one specific length every time. Now you can do lots of things with this line. You can make it, when you grab onto the end, you can make it short, you can make it long, you can turn it, you can do all kinds of things. So like this is good if you want to make an X, right, to cross out a section. We don't cross out many sections. There's really only one section that I teach that can be crossed out, and you guys will learn that in class with Deb in your offers package day. But if you wanted to make an X, you could. But in this case, let's say we just needed to cross out Lillian. All right, so I'm going to make that smaller. And then we go back to our standard fields. And I want to bring in a text box. Okay. In the text box, I can also change the size and shape and all kinds of good stuff. I'm a little OCD when it comes to how these look, as you can imagine. So when I add the text box, you can type it right here. I prefer to type it over on the right-hand side, and I'm going to type what I needed it to say. Always check read only when you type something in there as a change. Okay, if you don't type read only, it will prompt your client to type something there. And we don't want to confuse your client. The reason we are typing it is because we're trying to do it for your client. Now what happens if you make a change? If you make a change on a document before I have signed it, right? Because after I have signed an exclusive right to represent buyer agreement or listing agreement, we have to do it on a different document. Then we need initials. So you would bring in an initial block for buyer, and then you would click over to me, the broker, because I need an initial block also. And look, it matches the size for you. So awesome. Okay, so both have to initial the change. Okay, any questions so far? So this is what would happen if you had a listing and you got an offer in and you needed to make a change and send it for a counter offer. My suggestion is that you go over here and you grab a line and you make a hash mark with it, right? So that you have your initial blocks next to it so that everybody knows where they're supposed to be initialing. Now let's say you don't need this, right? I don't need this. I was just showing you. Click on it and click delete on your keyboard and it's gone. Super easy. Okay, I don't need to have it all messed up like that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these changes. I just wanted to show you how you do it. And so this would also be the same thing when you get those offers on how you bring in your initial blocks and your signature blocks. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and hit send because I'm ready to send this to my client for signatures. Now what happens here is it shows you in this envelopes tab. Remember, we started in details and then you go to documents. You don't ever have to worry about people. The next would be envelopes if you needed to check something on the envelopes that you've sent out. So let's say you send documents out and your client says, I never received them. I didn't get them. Well, your first reaction is going to be, well, check your spam folder, right? You're always going to say, check your spam folder. Or when agents call me and say, you never signed my buyer agency agreement. You never signed my listing agreement. And I'm thinking, I never got it, right? So my question is always going to be, go into your envelope and check your email addresses. So you were in documents here, right? This is where it always pops you in when you log in. You click on envelopes, and waiting for others means you have envelopes out waiting for signature. and it will show you where you are in the process. So if you have 2 or 3 people that are in an envelope waiting to sign, it will show you who has signed and who is waiting to sign. It also shows you the email addresses that you have sent it to. There are typos sometimes in email addresses. So if you need to fix an email address, you would click correct. And it puts you into this page where you were adding recipients, and you would correct it and hit send. You can also edit the signing fields so long as no one has actually done anything in the document. So let's say I sent that and I was like, oh wait, I forgot to do whatever. I can go into the signing fields. But if someone's already signed it, you can't edit the signing fields. So then you hit send and it resends it once you make your corrections. So what I'm going to do for you guys right now, I am going to go on my phone and I'm going to sign these documents for you so that we can then see what it looks like after they're signed. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to see if anyone has questions. All right, no questions so far? Awesome. I'll go ahead back and share my screen so then we can see what it looks like as soon as I click through, and this will just take me 1 minute because I'm going to click through as the buyer and then it will email the broker. And so I will click through it twice with the broker signature, and then we'll look at the finished product. And then I will show you what you do with that finished product. You will get an email if you have your notifications set up in your preferences. You will get an email that says that your client has opened your email, right? That they've opened your Docusign and that they're looking at it. So you'll know that they're looking at it if your notifications are set up that way. I personally like having the notification set up that way because I want to know, I want to be aware if they're looking at it so that if they have questions, I'm ready. All right, so I have signed both versions of this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to refresh this screen so I can show you what the envelope looks like. It says needs my signature, but I signed it already. There we go. Everything is signed. Let's go to documents. There we go. Now we have 2 versions of every document. We have the fillable document, which is the form, and then we have the signed version, okay, which is the version that went through the envelope and came back and has everybody's signature on it. This certification is what shows what time it was signed, what day it was signed. This has all of the important legal information on it for when there's a question later about, you know, what's the IP address, you know, all of that good stuff. It's all contained on this certification document. So why is it important that I'm telling you you have 2 versions of every document? Because if you have to correct something on a document, you can go back into the form document and make the change on the form and then send a new version to your client. Okay, this is important when we're talking about offers, because in this market, some of us have to write more than one offer before we end up with a ratified contract. And we can't have more than one version of this form in our Docusign room. So we just need to go back in to the original form and make the appropriate changes on it. It actually does save time because some of the information is not going to change from offer to offer, but you'll always have the record of what they signed in this version right here. So now that you have that, what do we do with it? Well, your client will already have received a copy with my signature on it because you put both of us in the envelope. If you don't put both of us in the envelope, then it would be your responsibility to download the final signed version and email it to your client. But we ask you, our policy is to put me in the envelope with them so that we know a copy has been delivered back to your clients. Okay. One thing I'm going to show you here right now, which I also go over in a little more detail in the advanced class, is how to add another folder to this room so that you can clean up the way this looks. Because right now, this is a little messy and this is hard to figure out what you have going on in this room because everything goes into this room docs folder. So in actions right here, on the right-hand side, you can click add folder. And this folder is going to be called signed buyer docs. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move all of my signed buyer documents into that folder. So remember, when you hover over something, it gives you that circle where you can check the box. So all of the signed versions and that certificate, perfect. Now, I want to move them. So if you just had the desire to just drag and drop it, you can just now drag and drop them. There's also in that new toolbar that comes up, the ability to drag multiple at a time, right? So that only takes one at a time when you do it that way, if you drag and drop. But let's say I want to move them all at once, right? Because that's easier. Some people like to drag and drop, some people don't. Up here, you have this that says move. So it asks me where I want to move it to. So I want to move it to a folder in my current room, and it tells me there's two folders. There's two choices. Well, signed buyer docs is where I want it to go. And those are the ones that I highlighted. It calls them PDFs because the signed version is essentially a PDF. And I click move, and there you go. They're now in the signed buyer docs folder. So now it's a little cleaner, right? We have this room docs and the signed buyer docs. So now it's time to go back to command. So when I click back into command, I have to submit these documents to the Market Center for review. How do I do that? There's a very quick way to do that when you have them in Docusign and when you let command open your Docusign room so that the two are connected. Right here, at the top of your checklist, it says attach multiple files. That's the most efficient way to do this. You can also attach them one by one with this add file button. And sometimes you need to use both depending on what checklist you're working on. The listing agreement, you're not always going to have the tax record in your Docusign. So you might have to upload the tax record separately by just using this button right here, where everything else that's in Docusign you can do by attach multiple files. And what attach multiple files means is that you can attach multiple checklist items, not multiple files to one checklist item, but multiple checklist items from Docusign at the same time instead of going one by one. So let's click here. Manual means you would be uploading it from your computer. Docusign means you want to pull in something that's signed from Docusign. So when I click Docusign, it gave us this drop-down menu, and it says, okay, tell me which Docusign document you're going to pull in. the first folder that always comes up is that room docs folder. But these are all the ones that are unsigned. So if we scroll down, we're going to find several documents that say -signed.pdf. Okay, that's the version that you want to bring in because it's the signed version. I don't need the unsigned version. That doesn't help us. I need the signed version. So I'm going to click here. We don't have a trust or an LLC. So I'm going to scroll back down to the bottom again, and I'm going to look for that ABA that's signed. I'm going to scroll down again to that folder, and I'm going to look for the cybersecurity notice. Let's see. Cybersecurity. Now we're going to go down again and look for that useful information about a real estate transaction document. There we go. And then the last thing is that DPOR long form. There it is. Now, everything that I have marked as required has a document attached. So now I'm going to click attached. When I click attached, it brings in a copy of that document into Command for us. It's awesome. Now I'm ready to submit this to the Market Center for review, right? I'm ready as the agent to submit this to me as the broker to review this to make sure that everything is correct. So what you do is you click Submit to Market Center. And it asks you, are you sure? Do you have everything you need? Once you hit Submit, it changes over here from where it said Open to Submitted. These other folders right now don't say anything next to them because you don't have any documents in there. As soon as you add a document, it will say open. And then once you submit it, it says submitted. If I have approved your document, it will say approved right here in the status. Right now it just says uploaded, but it would say approved or returned. And if it's returned, there'll be a little note next to it that says why. Your goal, of course, is to have it approved and to have this folder approved. At the end, you want to have your folders all be green and say approved. That's how you get paid fastest, is when your consultation says approved, your under contract says approved, and then your closed folder says approved. All right, any questions before I get into commissions? Did that make sense to everybody? All right. We are going to go into offers and commissions next. Okay, offers and commissions is the tab that you would go to immediately following submission of your ratified contract documents. So this is going to be at that 48-hour mark from submitting, from having the ratified contract, right? You're going to submit your ratified contract documents in that folder, and then you're going to come over to this offers and commissions tab. You have to add a new offer in order to get into the commission section, right? We need to know just a couple of pieces of information about your offer before you can go to the commission. Now, why would you use this tab otherwise? You would use the offer tab in a couple of different ways. You can use the offer tab actually before you have a ratified contract. You can use this if you're a listing agent and you have multiple offers come in and you would like to be able to compare the offers for your client. You can put all of the details in and be able to show them on a report, a comparison so that they can choose the offer that is best for them. You can also use this as a buyer's agent. And every time you submit an offer for a client, if it is not accepted, this is a good tool to, again, have that offer comparison sheet so that you can review with your client what might be something that they are doing over and over again in their offers that is preventing them from having theirs become the ratified contract. So this is actually a tool that you can use prior to having that ratified contract. it is simply a requirement in the ratified contract process, right? Where you have to have an offer before you can get into the commission tab. I suggest using it. The more information you put in command, the more command can help you with your business. So we click add new offer on the right-hand side. What are we going to call this? So we're going to call this ratified offer 510 for class. And we click create offer. So now we have some information that it wants. Again, anything that you see in our system that has a red asterisk, this means that it is a required piece of information before you can get to the next section. We're going to put in an address. So we're going to use 3202 Brynwood Place. If something comes up down here, I suggest that we use it because it means that it's importing information from one of our resources within command. You can certainly override it if it does not give you the address or it does not give you the correct full address. When it does this, you can certainly override it. It will let you, but my suggestion is to always choose from the dropdown if it has the correct information there as an option. Okay, the parties. The buyer, of course, it brought in the information from our opportunity, right? The seller, who's the seller? The name is the only thing required. You're not likely going to have all of their contact information. Who is the sales associate? Okay, you're going to put the listing agent's information. Who's on the other side? All right, this is where you put the terms of the offer. So here, cash plus finance amount equals sales price. Cash means what's their down payment. Okay, so $100,000 plus the finance amount of $700,000 equals the sale price of $800,000. Okay, earnest money, you're not always going to know the percentage amount because sometimes it's just a random dollar amount. So you can click on the dollar amount side and then it will back you into the percentage. So let's say $25,000 was the earnest money amount. Option fee, we don't have option fees here. The buyer termination option, there isn't one. Seller costs, is there any closing cost credit in this market? Not likely. So we're gonna skip that. Here is where you get to give your opinion on pros and cons of the offers. So a pro of this would be that it's closing in 30 days and free rent back, let's say. And a con would be VA financing, even though they're putting money down. Okay, let's just say a con is VA financing because that's what a lot of agents think. It's not a con, trust me, VA financing is actually a good thing, but this is what some agents think. So if I'm a buyer agent, right, this is how I'm going to make sure that my client's expectations are set, right? How are we going to overcome this, right? Because remember, this is from a buyer perspective. Okay, if I was on the listing side, I certainly wouldn't put VA financing being a con because I don't think that it is. Okay, so now we have the information come across this page. An offer has to be accepted, right, to get to the next stage. So let's click accept. And now we can go in to manage our commission. Here, it brings in some information for you from previous sections of command that we've already filled in. So it brought in what our sale price was from our offer that we just typed in. It brought in the commission rate that we typed in on the initial opportunity information detail page, right? What if the commission being offered was 3%? Well, we would need to change that. Contract date is giving us an error message. There's no contract date. And over here on the right-hand side, it's telling us that you can't submit because the contract date's missing. So it's always going to tell you where the errors are. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this. And I'm going to edit the information. I'm going to say, look at this. The seller side was offering 3%. Awesome. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to put in the contract date. The contract date has to be before the closing date. So we'll put the 12th. And I'm going to save my changes. All right, so all of that's filled in. Now, wait a minute. Remaining agent commission balance, $4,000. Why does it say that? Well, because I changed it up here, but it doesn't automatically change down here. So we edit agent payment and then click calculate commission, and then it changes it for us. In this agent section, this edit agent section is also where you would put any KW Cares deductions that you are donating. You also put in any coaching fees that you pay to your wonderful coaches. This is where you put your BPOL taxes. If you also have a mentor that you're working with, you would put mentor fees here. If you have a broker credit, you put those here. All of this goes right here. All of the things that I've mentioned to you right there go in as deductions, okay? These are deductions. Almost all of what you would be using this for is a deduction. You might have a referral that you have to pay out, but everything else that would be a reduction in your commission goes in simply as a deduction. So I'm going to show you BPOL. So BPOL, we've clicked deduction. For Falls Church, the amount of BPOL is your GCI, your gross commission income, times 0.0052. If you are in Kingstown, it is your gross commission, right, that top number, times 0.0031. And if you are in Fredericksburg, it is your GCI times 0.0029. So in this case, we have $24,000 times 0.0052 because we're doing this one in Falls Church. So $124.80. Right? The description is BPOL, the pay to is BPOL, and the address you use is your market center address. The phone number you use is your market center phone number. And then you hit add. And there's your BPOL tax. Once you have entered all of your deductions, you save your changes. This is where it would reflect your associate royalty or your company dollar. If you have not capped yet, here are the additional deductions that I have put in. And then over on the right-hand side is where it shows the summary of everything that was added over here. If you are working with another agent on a transaction, this happens regularly on Teams. This button right here is how you add another agent. So you would add the other agent. This information would pop up for them. You would edit just like before. If you have added them and it gives you the error message that says, hey, your totals don't match, right? You're trying to pay out way too much commission. Remember the trick of edit agent payment and recalculate commission, and it should solve that for you. Okay. You would then hit submit and it comes to the market center for your MCA. to review. Sometimes I review them to make sure everything matches what was offered in the MLS and what came through on the settlement statement. Occasionally, we will return them for you to make a correction and then resubmit to us. All right. That's it. That is what I have for you guys today. What did you think? Did anybody learn anything?
Yeah.
Oh, but I do have a question though.
Yes.
I was just gonna wait till after the meeting, but when it comes to the compensation on the buyer's agreement, I was talking to Deb about this. I didn't put anything under compensation because I was like, well, it's gonna be paid by the seller, you know, either 2.5%. So I put 0 under my buyer's agreement for them. Do I have to go back and redo that just to make sure that I actually do get compensated for the transaction?
That's a great question. So on the buyer agreement, when you're filling in that section, when you put 0, it means that anything offered by others that's above 0, Keller Williams is allowed to collect. What it also means, if it says 0, is that the buyer is not responsible to pay anything if others do not offer compensation on their behalf.
Okay. So do I need to correct that, or should I just leave it?
So what you would do is you would make sure that you are just filling it in consistently across the board for all buyers that you're working with. And if you are not going to charge a buyer when a seller is not offering compensation, then you would leave it as 0.
Okay. All right. Got it.
It's a good question. All right. Are there any questions about Command or Docusign and what I've shown you so far today? We will have an advanced class in 2 weeks. So I do this basic class the beginning of the month on the 2nd Monday, and then the 4th Monday of every month, I do an advanced class that is strictly Docusign, and we show some tips and tricks on different things, like creating those templates, how to split up documents and combine documents, and more organization in those folders and things. And it's just a open forum for questions and specific things that you might need help on within Docusign. All right. Well, if nobody else has any questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I thank you guys so much for spending time with me this afternoon. Glad we were able to get through that. I hope it wasn't too much in one day for you guys with boot camp this morning, but it's very important information for you guys to know how to get us everything turned in and be able to get your clients' offers to sign so that we can get you guys paid.